Hello YouTube. So this is my second video, my second upload to YouTube, and as promised I will definitely be letting you guys know when I'm coming back on next. I intend to post every week. Let me put a bit of lipstick on, sorry. I wouldn't say I'm nervous, but I'm anxious to just do God's will for this channel, and hopefully it will reach out to others that have maybe experienced or want to experience growth mindset in their lives, in their daily duties. They can come back and look at these videos and draw insight and inspiration. So let me start with my testimony. So I was born and raised in London. Yeah, I'm an only child. I grew up in a single parent family. My mum, and she had me when she was really young. She had me when she was 19, her baby herself. She was still is an amazing singer. I do believe that sometimes when we sacrifice ourselves to have children, sometimes our dreams and inhibitions can get put on the bender. And I believe sometimes we need to understand that parents also have dreams, and that was my mum's dream. It still is. But she sacrificed that to raise me on her own. She did her best with the tools and resources that she had. Myself, from a young age, I think my first kind of how can I put it, experience of just life and getting out there was when I met my best friend Rebecca. Shout out Rebecca. And her parents were amazing. I used to go to church with them. They introduced me to church, and that in itself was just a completely different world for me. I felt instantly home. I felt welcomed. I felt loved. I noticed from a young age that I would be listening really attentively to the services that were going on, and passionate to really try and use these parables and scriptures and incorporate them in my own life, even from a young age. And I'd noticed like other kids in the church, you know, hiding behind the seats and doing colouring and, you know, just doing what kids do. But I was like a little adult and just sitting down there in the service. Then I remember thinking, oh, you know, all these people are dressed so nice and I don't have any nice church clothes. I didn't grow up very wealthy. I grew up very modest. So I would go home and, you know, get my mom's like dress up skirts and stuff. And I must have looked like a bag of odd bins. But I would go to church, and me and Becky would go and we would sing and, you know, just really enjoy the service, and then go to the shops afterwards and get like candy, or we call it penny sweets back in the day when they were £1. So anyway, moving on, I then introduced my mum to church, and she started to come, and you know, it was a nice little I wouldn't say escapism, but it was a nice how can I put it, it was a nice break in my school life, and just being able to be free and worship freely, you know, in church from that young age. Let's fast forward to when I was, I think between like 10 and 14, I made a decision to get baptized. And me and my best friend Rebecca, we got baptized together with my mum. And that was an amazing experience. I remember on the way home, the car broke down. We had to sort out the exhaust. The devil is a liar. And it didn't deter me. I knew from a young age that God had called me. What for, I didn't know. But I knew that I was called by Christ, you know. So then moving forward from the baptism, let's go back a little bit. Unfortunately, when I was at the age of 10 and even younger, through certain people that were around me at the time, friends and family, I won't say who they are because I don't believe in exposing people like that, but I was a victim of sexual abuse. By the age of 10, that really gripped me, because the sexual abuser had said something to me that really marked me. And he said, The only reason why I did what I did is because I fancied someone else that was close to me. And that brought a lot of discord and a lot of confusion. So from then, from a young age, and he also introduced me to smoking, weed and cigarettes. So I became really reckless, really young. But I always knew at the back of my mind that God was with me, no matter what. I became promiscuous at a young age. I was then in secondary school. I went to a girls' school, which I think made me even more promiscuous. And all the time, my friend Bex was there by my side. You know, she never judged me. She never pulled fingers to me. My mum, I told her what happened on my 16th birthday. And the person who abused me actually came to apologize to me at my home, and that really set me free. But by this time, I had so much, how can I say it, bad routines that I was allowing myself to be part of. It was really stunting where I wanted to go in terms of my faith. So let's fast forward between like 10 to 16. I was then going to summer camp at my church. I began teaching there. One summer, it was the last summer of summer camp, the last day. And I saw this really handsome guy. We were coming back from buying some food from a local grocery store in London called Sainsbury's. I don't know if you guys know it. And I saw him and I was saying to my friend Rebecca, who was there, and a few others, that guy is really nice, you know. I forgot to mention throughout that whole summer, God was really speaking to me. I was very aware of my promiscuity, if that's how you say it, and my recklessness. And I began ministering to people everywhere, on the buses, you know, people on my street, people in my area, you know, telling them about the good news of Jesus Christ. And so we're coming back from the grocery store. We've got all the shopping in our hand. I see this guy and I'm like, girls, this guy is fine. Like, I really like him. So my initial reaction was to evangelize to him. And I said, hi, you know, my name is Cheryl. You know, why don't you come to my church? Which ironically, we were right in front of by the time I met him. So I invited him to church, didn't think anything of it. The next Sunday he came, and we became friends instantly. We became talking. He was 7 years older than me. I was 18 now by this time. And very quickly we got engaged. The church wasn't too happy because they thought that he was a lot older than me. And the minister there at the time tried to edge him to go with other women that were probably more mature in their faith and just in general. But we were infatuated with each other. Notice I used the word infatuated and not in love. And cut a long story short, I married this person. So I'm now 19, I'm married to this person. I'm thinking, yes, you know, I'm finally doing the right thing. You know, I'm going to get married. I don't have to be thinking about living in sin and fornicating anymore. And I think I just looked at marriage as an ideal instead of a ministry. And I was really young. I was also starting my first year of uni. My mum also wasn't very happy with the marriage, but I promised her that I would still go to uni, which I did. Then all hell broke loose. The day that I got married, I noticed a patch on the side of my head, and I was like, what is that? I thought maybe it was just from stress or me combing my hair excessively and stuff like that. We're now married. We're now, you know, living in the back of someone's garage in London, and we're happy. We made it our home, and it was just cute and cozy. And I woke up one day, I had extensions in my hair, single plaits, and I noticed that about 5 of them were on a pillow. But not only did I notice that they were on the pillow, but my actual hair was attached to the extension. And I was like, what is going on? So I showed my husband, and it was like a big bald patch in my head. So he was like, yeah, you need to go to the doctors. So I went to the doctors. Cut a long story short, they diagnosed me with traction alopecia. I then found out from other family members that they had it too, and it was kind of only the females in my family who had inherited this, sorry, but I had it severely. And within like probably a year of our first year of marriage, I lost my hair. Now going back and, you know, listening to church, and I'd be hearing things like, you know, a woman's beauty is in her hair. I'm thinking, I ain't got no hair. What's going to happen? Is my husband going to not love me anymore? You know, so I would over please, and I would do things, you know, in a really meticulous way to try and make up for my loss of hair. He was very supportive about it. He didn't ever judge me about it, but it was something inwardly that I was very insecure about. Anyway, about 2 years passed in our marriage, and then we decided, okay, we want to try and have a baby. I was also in my last year of university. So we planned the whole thing. I spoke to my lecturer. She said it was fine. I was studying musical theatre, performing arts at the time. And they said, that's fine. We'll just give you all narrative roles. You might have to be jumping and prancing up and down on the stage. It's fine. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm now pregnant. I found out I'm having a girl. I'm excited. We're going for scans. We've announced it to the church. God gave me a name. I named her Sky. As I was traveling on the bus one day, I heard, you know, if you have this child and she's a girl, call her Sky. So unfortunately, August the 26th, the day after our anniversary, which was April the 25th, it would have been 3 years celebratory, Sky passed away, and it rocked my world. There was no kind of heads up. Prior to giving birth, which would have been in July, I was at my uncle's memorial service of 1 year. He had passed away, and a relative asked me, oh, you know, you're going to give birth soon. Is the baby kicking? And at that moment, I thought to myself, hold on a minute, I haven't felt the baby kick for the whole of that duration of that day. And so I spoke to my husband, and he said, okay, you know, if you don't feel any kicking by early in the morning, we'll go to the hospital and they can, you know, plug me up and make sure baby's heartbeat is all right and everything. So said, so done. Didn't feel anything for the whole of the night. Went to the hospital in the morning, and they attached me to a monitor. An hour later, the nurse came in and said, unfortunately, the monitor wasn't turned on properly. And then I just saw all these people rushing towards me, physicians, student doctors, you name it. They were rushing towards me, and they were like, we have to basically put you into emergency cesarean because the baby has no heartbeat. I woke up from my anesthesia, and they were like, your baby's in the neonatal ward. She has severe brain damage. We don't think she's going to live, which is obviously a lot to take in after just giving birth, not knowing what's going on, waking up to an anesthetic and hearing that news. My husband at the time was with me in the room. I was still high on anesthetic. I thought they were joking. I was like, oh, no, you lot are playing with me. Stop playing with me. If this is real, tell me the date that I got married. And I was asking all these weird questions. I think at the time, to prove to myself at that moment was real. Every question that I asked my husband and the doctors, they answered correctly, and I knew it was real. We spent 2.5 weeks in the neonatal ward in Barnet Hospital, and on the 26th of August, Sky went to be with the Lord. She literally took her last breath in my hands, and I remember walking through the hospital to go to the chapel of rest with her, and people were being like, oh, your baby's so cute, it's so beautiful, not knowing that my beautiful baby girl had already passed. And I broke down. My mum was there with me. I literally dropped to the floor. I think my husband at the time took Sky and kind of gave me that moment to just recuperate and, you know, just have that moment. And then we made our way to the chapel of rest, and that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. The church that I was attending at the time was so supportive. In the UK, if a baby passes away, the funeral is all paid for. So thank God, because we were only 3 years into our marriage. We were trying to save a property, but we didn't have a lot of money. The church paid for us to go to Jamaica 2 weeks after, and it didn't take the pain away, but it really helped with our mourning. So yeah, the first couple years in the marriage was really hard. And you know, with my alopecia and losing Sky, I felt lost. I was asking a lot of questions. I never actually I didn't feel angry with God. I wouldn't say that I was convicted that it was his will for Sky to pass away, but I just never thought to blame him. I carried on with my life, tried to make sense of the craziness, the loss. My ex-husband went back to work very soon after, and I was just at home looking at all these baby clothes with no babies. And I remember this one woman who's also pregnant at the time came to visit me from my church, and she was like, oh, well, since you don't need your baby clothes anymore, give them to me. And that really hurt me. I then decided I can't stay in this house anymore. I'm going to go crazy. So I then went back to work. I started to do telemarketing, selling selling Lloyd's TSB insurance to customers. It was very, very slow. It was only inbound. I was having like 2 or 3 calls coming in a day. One of my friends then sent me a request for this kind of like social, you know, new platform. It kind of was just before Facebook, and I joined it, and I put on the profile that I was married and stuff like this, and, you know, just looking to connect with new people. Cut a long story short, I was browsing through people's photos, and I saw a picture of a man holding some flowers. So I very innocently said, oh, those flowers are really nice. And then he messaged me back, and the rest was history. I ended up having an emotional affair with this man online for about a month. I'd spoke to someone in my family about it who didn't like my husband at the time, and was like, well, maybe this is a sign, you know, for you to go forward into this new avenue in your life, and to maybe potentially be with this new person in the near future. This person was very close to me, and I really, you know, took their advice to hand. And I listened, and I met up with this person, and cut a long story short, I ended up having an affair. I had a one-night stand with this person. It was crazy. I immediately felt guilty. It was a Wednesday, I remember, because I had worship and praise practice in church. And I still went to church to do my worship and praise practice, acting like nothing was wrong. But my heart was so deeply burdened, and I knew that I'd done wrong. So after that, I went home that evening, and I told my husband. I told him this is what I'd done, and I'm really sorry. And he took it really bad. And obviously, he was very angry. He called me all the names underneath the sun. It was a lot of verbal abuse that I just wasn't ready for. He actually spoke to the person on the phone, and they had this weird, calm kind of conversation, which was really crazy. And I promised him that I wouldn't speak to that person again. And throughout the duration of our marriage, I didn't. Our marriage was never restored after that. I was left broken, and I'm sure I broke his heart too, because of pain. And I think hurt people. And this is part of my testimony. It's my past. I'm not ashamed. I share it in case any of you have been through similar experiences. You're not alone. Let's now fast forward to about another 2 years. So the month after Sky had passed away, we were advised not to have any children. But unfortunately, my ex-husband actually took advantage of me in my sleep and got me pregnant. That pregnancy was probably the scariest pregnancy of my whole life. I thought the whole thing was going to happen again. Is my baby going to die? Am I going to die? I was still recovering from a cesarean section. They were telling me if we get pregnant early, it was going to rupture. I was now resentful over my husband at the time because he'd got me pregnant in my sleep. And just a whole bag of emotions, but also feeling quite happy that I had been with child again. And I said, if I have this child and she's a girl, I'm going to call her Princess, because she literally will be my princess. And God gave me a vision of what she would look like. And when she was born, fit and healthy, praise the Lord, she looked just like what I had seen in my vision. And I did call her Princess. So that was probably 5 years into our marriage. And then 2 years after that, so now 7 years, we had another son and we called him Malachi. And he was healthy, bouncy baby boy. Everything was going fine. Fast forward now to about 2008. I'm now saving. We're living in a 2-bedroom apartment. We're still trying to save for a mortgage. I'm now an at-home mum. He's going out to work. And I said to him, I think we need a holiday. Cut a long story short, he was like, why don't you go with the kids? You go with the kids to Jamaica and I'll, keep working and look after home. I was like, okay. So I booked a ticket to Jamaica with my 2 children. We went along with my friends and their children, and it was a great holiday. But I noticed throughout the holiday, I'm trying to contact my husband, and the communication was just neither here nor there, very sparse, very distant. And we got back to Gatwick Airport and he was meant to come and pick us up, and we had to wait 3.5 hours in the freezing cold airport. He came, no apology, no asking how my holiday was, no asking for photos, not talking to the kids, silent journey all the way home in the car. I then said to him, something is wrong, what is wrong? He wouldn't say anything to me. This was in December the 22nd, 2008 or 9. And I said, tell me. And he was just like, okay, I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you after the Christmas season is over. And I said, I cannot play happy family. You know, I'm not that person. I can't hide my emotions. Just tell me what it is now. So he was basically like, I want to get a divorce from you. I've never forgiven you for what you did 7 years ago, having a one-night stand after we lost Sky. And it just all came out. I was so angry. I started punching the walls and shouting and saying, why did you allow us to have more children if you didn't even forgive me from that long? Going back, we did have pastoral and marital counseling. I had to step down from all my ministries in church. I was shunned by the pastor and told that I would be burning in hell, and that it was a blessing that my husband still wanted to stay with me. So already I had this mindset of, I almost saw my ex-husband as the second chance in life. He forgave me and, all this kind of thing. So when he told me that, it just didn't make sense. But cut a long story short, I granted him his divorce. I was empty. I now had 2 kids. I was not working. I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment that was being refurbished, the whole of the block. So I was the only person living in that block. And when people are living in a property, rodents come. So we had rats in our house at one stage, and the electricity ran out. And I'd phoned my mum that morning. I was just like, Mum, I don't know what's going on. But my mum at the time was in her own relationship. And I think I'd phoned her really early in the morning, and she was just a bit caught off guard. And I wasn't able to get that support from her that I needed at that time. So that's when I became really reckless. I was just like, you know what, bomb this, bomb family, bomb husbands. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I then, like a silly fool, reconnected with the person that I had a one-night stand with 7 years prior. That didn't work out. I started partying again, drinking with cousins and family members. Nothing was filling that hole. And I was just like, Lord, from where you called me from a young age till now, things are just getting worse, not better. A year on, 2009, the divorce came through. By this time, they nearly already finished redeveloping the neighborhood that I was living in. So that was one thing that was keeping me really going. I joined the residents team, and I was able to have input on, you know, things like flooring and the color of the cupboards and stuff like this, and, you know, neighborhood watch. And that kept me really in a positive space, but I wasn't really doing anything towards what I believe God had called me to do, at the very minimal least as a Christian, evangelism. But I'd always had the heart for people. I'll be on the street and I would drop a little "Jesus loves you" to people that were passing, but never really took it seriously. So yeah, the partying kind of calmed down. The cousins fell out with each other. I fell out with them. I'm now the black sheep in the family. I've now got 2 young children. We moved into the new property, which was amazing. You know, we all have our own rooms now. It's a fresh start, fresh property. I then say, okay, I'm going to pursue what I wanted to do from when I was at university, which was musical theatre. So I went on to do a few TV shows in the UK. One was called Grease is the Word, where they were looking for a Sandy and a Danny, and I was the only black Sandy in the show. It was a great experience. I got kicked off the show before the semi-finals. I was a bit gutted, but I was really proud of myself for getting that far. So I had the taste from before, and I wanted to pursue this in my now future. It never happened, and I ended up in teaching. So I ended up volunteering at my daughter's school in the drama department for 1.5 years. Then the drama department closed down. I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. I'm not going to end up being a drama teacher and teaching musical theatre. What can I do? So then a position opened up at the school to be a pastoral support worker. I took the position. Best thing I ever did. By this time, my oldest, Princess, was about 10 and Malachi was about 8. Malachi was getting in a lot of trouble. He was at the same school that I was teaching at, and I'd find myself having to pull away from my lessons and get a cover teacher, because he would find himself at the head teacher's, front door, being spoken to for misbehaving in the lessons. So that was challenging, but I had been aware that Malachi had been affected greatly by the divorce. I also forgot to say that we had a court order, so they were seeing their father every 2 weeks from the time he left till the time they were the ages that they are now. But it wasn't enough for him. As a son, I do believe that a father figure is paramount. So he was paying up a lot in school. And then COVID came. Oh my gosh. So then my whole post and my department got closed down. I then had to do teaching assistant work. I didn't like it, but I did it anyway for the money. And then, cut a long story short, Malachi got kicked out of school for fighting. So I was now faced in a position where, okay, how can I go to work if my son's being kicked out? If I homeschool him from home, how am I going to teach? So I phoned up the ex-husband and I asked him, will you be able to help me with Malachi, even a few days a week, homeschooling him so that I'm still able to go to work? And he declined and said, sorry, he can't give up his work. So I had to. So I gave up my teaching position. That was about, 8 years ago. And I'm at home with the children. I'm homeschooling them. I'm praying fervently. I'm seeing what's happening with George Floyd and the lockdown. And the lockdown really helped me to just have a more serious personal relationship with God. Because I didn't have that very strong bond with anyone else that I could really resonate to in my real life. I always would go to him. So COVID happened. The whole kind of George Floyd thing happened. There was a lot of racial tension in the UK. I started to do Bible studies myself at home with the children. I didn't want us to step away from, being in the church community because of the lockdown. So I took it upon myself to find churches that were still open. We had visited a few churches during the lockdown consistently. So I'd go to one church one week and then the other church the other week. And we did that throughout the whole 3 years. Yeah, that was one of the very tricky times in my life. After the lockdown, I decided, you know what, I'm going to get back out there. It's been about 8 years since I'd been divorced now. I'm going to get back out there. I went onto a dating website and I met a person online. And I think sometimes when we're in a space of feeling that we need to be loved, we can almost put a blind sight on red flags. And I fell very hard and quickly in love with this person. And soon after, I found myself pregnant again. So I'm gonna stop my testimony here. There's so much more to tell, and I'm sure there's things that I've missed out along the journey, from, you know, my baptism, to going through alopecia, to being married early, to going through the death of my child, to then living on my own with 2 children as a single parent, to then going into teaching, to then going into COVID, you know, to then meeting this new person in my life that I thought would fill all the gaps. So I will leave it there. There will be a part 2, which I will definitely upload this time next week, which will be Thursday, which is the day after my youngest son's birthday. So I look forward to hearing from you guys. Do leave a comment of positivity. Share with each other. We're a community. If anything I've said to you has resonated, I praise God. It's not all doom and gloom, but it's part of my story, my history, and where I'm coming from, and why my past has led me into reflection, into a clear vision of what I want to do for my near future, and where I want to take this channel and help others to just heal and mend. And if it wasn't for the grace of God, people, I tell you, I would not be here. So yeah, I'll leave it there. See you soon.